Hello everybody. Today I am gonna showcase on how I build the newest addition to the 24 scale lineup at RES Concepts. This is the newest and latest rail design. It shares the architecture of the Proto 10 scale that RES offers, and we did a lot of tweaking so it can integrate into a 24 scale option. So I'll talk about it a little bit, but you guys can watch me build it. The way I like to build my 24s is I like to grab my skid, transmission motor, and links and have that build on the side, like so. This is a LGRP transmission with their newest collaboration with PureTech motor. Some Hard Park Gladiator length links. Very, very common. Nothing too crazy. And I have a front Mias axle with NSDRC servo. And of course the rear, same Mias axle. Already shocks installed. The reason I do this is because it makes it a lot more efficient when it comes to holding the skid and the rail, playing with the screws, whether it's a RES chassis or a different manufacturer. It makes it more efficient for me. So that being said, I'll start off with the rail. Perfect. In the kit, we're going to have some belly rubs that you have two different options on skids. You can have the forward-facing skid or the stock SCX24 skid position. Either or it's optimal. Very old school. I don't like to use the motorized drills, but feel free to use it. I like to protrude the screw just a tad, just where I can feel it with my finger. That's good enough. It's pretty saucy. And on to the next one. So one thing to keep in mind is that this is 3D printed, so just be mindful, don't over torque it. Protrude it a bit more. There we go. So the reason why I like to protrude the screws just a tad is so that when you line it up against your skid, you can very easily place it in the hole, and it'll kind of tuck itself in there. It makes it easier to hold or finesse, so you can screw it in. And again, this is 3D printed, so be mindful. Don't over torque it. If you have a motorized screw driver, the belly rub itself acts like a washer, but still, it's good to be mindful. So while I install this, I'll talk a little bit about the chassis itself, but this is just an added option, again, to the 24 scale lineup that RES has. The PB24 is still going to be an option for you to purchase. The whole design concept of this specific chassis is just to give a little bit more to the builder. The PB24 is essentially RTR swap, but ready to, you know, destroy really whatever comes in its way. It's proven itself to be a, you can delegate that it's been a proven chassis among the competition crowd, because placings, it's been in podiums. I've won multiple first places in it. I've podiumed in it multiple times. Oh, wrong hole. That's what she said. But ultimately, it's proven itself. So this won't be replacing it. It's just going to be another option. This chassis itself was really designed to be friendly towards the 150mm plus crowd and for free crawling. You guys probably seen JT win already with one at a recent comp. I placed third in one. JT's friend very close to putting me podium on one comp with one. So these can be used for competitions, but really its design is for free crawling. But as you can see, this is how it looks like. So now what I like to do is I like to install my rear upper links followed by my front upper links. It kind of becomes a game of guessing a little bit if you don't know the angle of your drive shaft in relation with your link desired option. If you don't know that, then you kind of have to go back and forth until you finally get it where you want it to be. Again, this is 3D printed, so be a little bit mindful, gentle with it. A lot of effort went into having the right shock location for 40 mil big bore shocks, hard park shocks, and Jora 39 mil. We went through all of those just so, excuse the noise in the background, just so we can make it easier for the builder to have options. So right now I'm going to put the front upper link. The upper links, I like to run them depending on the situation or what build I'm after for. I usually go off what a hard park recommends, and is use it to your need. The angle's there, use it if it's affecting your clearance. Flip it upside down. If you want it the other way, just use it to your need. That is how this looks so far. It's starting to take shape. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install my rear axle. The beauty of having the shocks on there already is that some of you guys know when you install the axle and you leave the drive shafts last, and your links are connected, but if you don't have your shock and you're adjusting your shock, the drive shaft falls out, and it just like becomes really annoying. This is the reason why I build it this way. All of my links are in there, my rear drive shaft is on there, this drive shaft is on. All I gotta do is just hook up the links, and I can very easily put the drive shaft, and I can hold it in place. And since the shock's already installed, I just put it onto the rail, and it makes it a really easy to hold everything together. Kind of save yourself from doing twice the work. Now, you can do the shocks, but I'm going to do that towards the end once I have the front axle installed. So one of the things you're going to see right here is that my servo is not installed on the mount. I'll explain that right now. But for now, I'm going to install this axle. Well, while we worked on this chassis, we tried to do the less is more and more is less concept. So you'll see me right now when I'm done with the axle install some of the new electronics trays that RES is going to offer. We've made a front electronics tray that is considered a BOA just because the tray itself sits on the axle, so it's a battery on axle. There is also now a new tray for the rear, both which will be provided in the kit, that will now, similar to the PB24, you'll need a screw on each side of the rail to hold it in place, but towards the front, the screw holding your cab, if you make it long enough, will hold the electronics tray as well. So this intention was to eliminate hardware or extra pieces, thus eliminating the plethora of risks, less labor on yourself on building these small rigs. Here is the front electronics tray that I'm talking about. This is one of the first versions we did. But very simply, you get your, in this case the Mia's servo mount, take off your tabs, and you put this in between the tab and the servo mount. Fits in nicely. And what this does, actually what it creates once you install your servo, is you have this nice real estate right here. You can see how I've done this in the past, which is Velcro, but now it's provided as an option. You don't have to do it, but it's there for the kit, and there's a huge benefit to this is you can have enough space to fit your decased ESC, any ESC, your receiver, in some cases a battery. You're open to whatever your imagination can create with using this available space. So huge benefit to it, and I'm going to finish installing it right now. Screws ready. If you guys see me double guessing, it's because this is just a raw version of installing this. Or do you want your... Oh no. there. Right about there. I'm gonna cut it. I can leave it a little bit loose. So the beauty of these, you can see how this one's probably the desired length that I want, but these are made a little bit long, so you guys can cut it to length depending on the motor size. If you have a pancake motor, whether you have another LGRP or a Nano Beast or whatever you can think of, these are made long, so you can cut to length. In this case, here's my desired length. So there we have the front electronics tray, or the BOA tray, you can call it. They're made long, but you can cut them to length. In this case, this one I already cut to clear the front of the motor. Right. You can cut it even more, but in this case we are not. I can install my servo mount. Cool. Now I'm going to install the shocks. Start with the rear. This is where you can really dial in your rake and play with your caster as needed. In this case, I'm going to play with this. Feels and looks pretty good. We'll play with it in a bit. This is a hard park shock, and the hard park shocks are usually my go-to for any build. However, I've been a really big fan of the Enjoras lately. Kind of see it's taking shape. Right there. Don't like the rake it has. I can go lower a little bit, so I'm going to do that. Let's go right there. Go a little bit deeper since I have a rough idea. These hard park shocks that I have are limited on the inside, so they're not going at its full length. I have an internal spacer for a specific reason. That looks pretty good. You can kind of see it's starting to take shape. I really want to look at that. So for the rear electronics tray, this hole in the back is gonna reside towards the rear of the chassis, and there's only one hole you can put it in, and it's in that hole that's there right now. So you'll see me install it right now in a way that should look pretty seamless, hopefully. Just grab some screws. So I'm going to start it off by the short tab goes towards the rear. Screw that sucker in there, start it. Get this one going. That looks pretty good. I'm going to finish this one. Okay. try this one again. Keep an eye on that screw. Bear with me with the manual screwdriver. And there. Let's go for that second one. Cool. Now here is where you can do a couple things. Given the amount of space that you have from top of transmission in this configuration, you have all that space for real estate. You have your electronics tray for real estate in the rear, and you have the front one, real estate. Here what I'm going to do, since in this case I have this decased ESC, and most likely I'm going to put it underneath the cab like so, or I could just put it, you know, somewhere in here, or you know, you're open to your imagination. In this case here, what I'm going to do first is install the receiver, run the wire for the servo, and see where that naturally takes me. In this case, I'm going to put this under the tray, pull it under, something feels natural to me. I'm liking this like that. I can see myself putting something like this. Feels ergonomic. Yep, it feels good. Kind of gives you that natural pinched feeling that's pretty optimal in the 10 scale realm. So it's also a good design feature for self-recovery. Although I wouldn't recommend this style for a comp. If you're skillful enough, you could do it, but do I recommend it? Yeah. But most oftentimes now. Anyways, ESC is in there. Now I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do to my receiver. I'm gonna plug this sucker in here where it's gonna live for however long. Oh, I forgot to connect that, huh? Forgot to connect my well, I can do that after. So with the Tech Lizard Pro under the roof, and with this LGRP transmission configuration, I was able to fit this large of a donk receiver from LGRP from the brushless system on the side. So essentially you have receiver and ESC both inside the cab, which is good. It's okay. Cleans things up a little bit, but just know you are available to options. In this Gladiator configuration, if you have a mini receiver, you can put it in here very effectively. I'll show you guys an option of what I did. If you have a different motor, or you could even fit a whole ESC in the front if you want, with this configuration. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some Velcro in the rear for a battery. I will put this sucker right about there. For those of you that run straps, you do have the option to fit one in there. Little Velcro strap. Now onto the wheels. So here's one way of building this style chassis with this cab. Feels very fluent. Feels really good actually. But you can see here that added breakover. Just a little bit more. And again, you can play around with a couple options that you have for caster with the front upper link holes. Same thing goes for the rear. You saw there a little bit where my link was just a hole too big, so a hole too up. So I just lowered it to allow space for that rear ESC tray. But essentially, that lives like that. You can always also utilize this tray for battery and ESC. Use your imagination. You're open to a couple of options with this style electronics tray. I was able to tuck in my stock LGRP receiver and a Lizard Pro in there. Even if it wasn't the case, you can easily fit it. Not easily, but you could. Yeah.